Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
I want you to know it flatters both me and the gentlelady from California that you've made it your habit to be down here during Rules Committee time. It's good to know that you respect what we do upstairs as much as the members of the committee do. I always enjoy coming down for the Rules Committee debate because it's the only debate on all of Capitol Hill where the reading clerk reads every single word of the bill that we're about to consider. Ordinarily, we waive that, but the rules don't let you waive it. You have to read the rules so folks will understand what's happening today. I happened to time the reading clerk today. I didn't put him up to anything special. He read it as he always does. Took him 1 minute and 6 seconds to read the resolution that's before us. 1 minute and 6 seconds. I heard my friend from California talk about the important constitutional questions that are here before us today. I heard my friend from California equate our president to discredited despots around the globe and how we must stand up to prevent that behavior here in America. I heard my colleagues who took to the floor this morning for 1 minute be sanctioned by the chair and advised to cease engaging in arguments of personality and attacks against our president. 1 minute and 6 seconds it took to read the resolution before us today, Mr. Speaker. And that's 1 minute and 6 seconds longer than this resolution has been considered in total in every committee throughout this Capitol. I want to say that again. You heard my colleague talk about how critically important this bill is, this resolution is, this resolution of disapproval is as it relates to our constitutional powers. You heard it described as a power grab equivalent to those of discredited despots. And we haven't talked about it at all in this chamber, in these committees. Not one witness has testified. 1 minute and 6 seconds is how much we've invested in these nationally important matters. I listened, Mr. Speaker, as you cautioned member after member to cease engaging in personal attacks on the president during their 1 minute this morning. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm concerned that that's exactly what we're doing here today. If you want to have a debate about Article 1 and Article 2 powers and how we ought to retrieve the power that slid down Pennsylvania Avenue over through administration after administration after administration, I am not just your willing partner, I am your enthusiastic partner and passionate advocate. But that's not the bill we have before us today. It's not the debate we're going to have today. This is another in a long string of measures that have been brought to the floor of this House that could have been brought in a bipartisan way. I don't mean one Republican. I don't mean two Republicans. I mean the majority of Democrats and the majority of Republicans standing together to speak with one voice on behalf of the American people. But time and time again, we're missing that opportunity. This isn't a constitutional issue today, Mr. Speaker, though you would not know that because we've not had any witnesses testify. This is a legislative issue before us today. There is, in fact, the National Emergencies Act that allows the president to do extraordinary things if he or she decides there's a national emergency. That's not unconstitutional. Congress passed the National Emergencies Act. The President signed the National Emergencies Act. Perhaps the Supreme Court one day will decide that was an unconstitutional delegation of power by the Congress, but Congress delegated that power in the National Emergencies Act. The way we talk about this issue, Mr. Speaker, you'd think this is the first time you and I have seen this in the few years we've been in Congress. Of course, you and I know that's nonsense. There are 31 other national emergency declarations in effect today. 31 other national emergency declarations. National emergency declarations from the Obama administration, still active today. If we're so concerned about Article 1 and Article 2 power grabs, perhaps these emergency declarations that have been on the books since the last administration, Congress should deal with affirmatively here on the floor. There are national emergency declarations still in effect from the Bush administration. There are national emergencies still in effect from the Clinton administration. Mr. Speaker, there are national emergencies still in effect from the Carter administration that this House has made not a single effort to draw back that power from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Those are legitimate questions. Those are important questions. Those are things that bring us together as the people's representatives in this House, not bills designed just to poke a stick at a president who has real passion and real conviction about issues of real importance. Do you know what is in this resolution today, Mr. Speaker? What's in this disapproval resolution today that's going to make a difference on the border in terms of ending human trafficking? Not one thing. Do you know what's in this resolution today that if we come together and pass it, it'll make a difference in terms of drug trafficking on the border? Not one thing. What about if we come together and pass this resolution today for the very serious issue of weapons trafficking across our border? Do you know what we'll do today to fix that? Not one thing. Victims of sexual assault as they're being trafficked into this country. You know what we're going to do to fix that today? Not one thing. Do you know how many dreamers are going to have their hopes realized today with a pathway to permanency here in the United States of America? Not one. Man, we're good at bringing issues that are designed to poke each other in the eye. We are so good at bringing issues designed to try to embarrass one and boost another. But I got to tell you, Mr. Speaker, we're not so great at actually solving real problems. First time in my congressional career, just last Congress, Mr. Speaker, we brought a bill to the floor that would have provided permanency for our dreamers, that would have provided solutions on our border for human trafficking, for weapons trafficking, for drug trafficking. You know how many Democratic votes we got on that bill, Mr. Speaker? Not one. Now, to be fair, it wasn't one bill, it was two bills. Folks said, hey, if this one's not the right one, let's bring another one. Maybe this is going to bring people together. You know how many votes we got on the second bill, Mr. Speaker, from the other side of the aisle? Not one. The only bills that have come to the floor to provide a pathway for dreamers in my 8 years in Congress, and we got not one vote from the other side of the aisle. Is that because the other side of the aisle doesn't believe in those solutions? No, that's not why. It's because the other side of the aisle, in its wisdom, deemed that to be a resolution not designed to support the dreamers, but designed to divide. I disagree with that conclusion, but that's the conclusion that was made, and thus the only opportunity in a decade we've had to support dreamers, not one Democrat stood up and said yes. I call that a failed opportunity, and I'm not interested in figuring out who's to blame for that failed opportunity. This is a failed opportunity today, too, Mr. Speaker. And sadly, it's another in a series of failed opportunities here in 2019. I believe my colleague is going to see through the divisiveness of this resolution, through the charade of constitutionalism, right down to the very core of partisanism that underlies this resolution. But just remember, 1 minute and 6 seconds, Mr. Speaker, before I took to the microphone today, 1 minute and 6 seconds from the reading clerk is all the time this new Congress has dedicated to an issue that you're going to hear from my colleagues again and again is one of critical national importance, international importance, constitutional importance. How can those things be true? I reserve the balance of my time.